You're watching this video because you heard from a friend, maybe a billboard, that people are buying houses now with a 4% rate, which is weird because interest rates right now are like 6-7%. So is it too good to be true? Is it actually happening, or is it like a scam? Well, let me tell you this now. It is not a scam. I've seen it happen dozens of times, but it's not all it seems to be. There's some caveats with it. In today's video, I'm going to explain how it works, what builders you need to go to make sure to get the best interest rate incentive, and what you need to look out for, because it's not all daisies and coffee. And I'm sorry, I'm drinking a coffee right now and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm starting to learn how to brew my own coffee, so it's really cool. And for those that don't know me, my name is Javi. I make videos like this to help empower home buyers like you so they don't get taken advantage of when they're looking to buy their first house. And when you are ready to buy your first house here in the Phoenix, Arizona area, I would love to work with you. All my information is below. All right, that being said, how the heck are people getting a 4% interest rate right now? Well, this is what they're doing. Okay, first and foremost, it is not resales. Resales are basically all the houses you see on Zillow, like when you're looking and driving by neighborhoods and there's like a for sale sign. They've lived in it for a while and now they're looking to get rid of it and sell it. So they're not resales. So first and foremost, if somebody's telling you they're getting a 3 or 4% rate buying a reused house, they either got a crazy situation where they got a lot of money that doesn't really make sense to buy the rate down, or they're just plain lying. Here's a little hint for you. Whenever people talk about their home buying experience, they'd like to add a little more salsa on those tacos. So always have a skeptical mind when people are telling you their situation. How they're doing it is they're buying new construction homes, but not just any new construction homes. They're buying inventory houses. These are houses that are already built, not ones that you can go and pick out your lot and then you get to pick, your design and you can go, pick your colors, none of that. These are pre-made, already made houses, either that were made for the purpose of selling, or they were at some point working with somebody that was building their own dream house and they fell through. Most of the time, it's going to be the former. And how people are getting that 4% is because builders are giving what's called incentives for you to go and buy their houses. Now, incentives essentially, let's just say that you and I are meeting in a shady alley somewhere. You're looking for an iPhone, and my iPhone really catches your eye. I'm selling it for $1,000. And on the way to that shady alley, you're in the car, you're about to get out of the car, you're like, let me just look online and see how much a new iPhone goes for. You go and you see that the new iPhones are similarly priced, not too different, but you see there's a bunch of incentives. Like, hey, if you buy this iPhone at an Apple store, they're gonna give you free AirPods. And on top of that, you're gonna get a free massage. And you know what? Dinner and lunch are on us, on Apple. So that's gonna be like, that's tempting. Maybe I can save a little money by going and meeting Javi in this shady alley, or I can just go to the Apple store and get all these incentives. That's exactly what they are. A lot of people look at incentives from builders like as this gift from God himself, saying, hey, this is for you because you're a first-time home buyer. No, it's not like that. They're corporations, and there's a minimum amount of money they need to be making in profit for their shareholders. That's all it is. So they need to keep the inventory going, and they need to come up with ways to get people to go and buy these houses so they don't sit on the market. And that 4% or a lower interest rate that you're seeing people get is just one of those incentives. Now, here's the thing. There's different levels of incentives. And to me, personally, S tier is going to be that permanent lower rate. But there's different builders that offer different incentives. So for example, there's another one out there that you might have heard of that you're like, whoa, this definitely seems like a scam, but it's not. It's this thing called a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down. And basically how those work is for the first year, they're going to say, hey, your rate for the first year is going to be 2.5%. That's going to be your interest rate for year one. Gee golly, that is amazing. And year two, you're going to have a 3.5% interest rate. Oh my goodness, you're going to save so much money. But after that, you're going to have a 4.5 interest rate for the rest of your life. So keep in mind, when you're talking with these salespeople, they're going to keep bringing up your interest rate's going to be 2.5. Your interest rate's going to be 2.5. But in reality, they're not giving you a 2.5 interest rate, nor are they giving you a 3.5 interest rate. They're giving you a 4.5 interest rate. That's the permanent number. But what they're doing for the first year is they're simulating a lower rate. So on average, a percent is about a little bit over $200. So really what you're going to see is for year one, let's say your monthly payment here is $2,200. Year one, you're going to see on your mortgage statement, like your payment, that your rate is going to be 4.5, but you're going to see an added discount of about $400 for the first 12 months. For year 2, for those 12 months, you're going to see an adjusted discount of about $200. So they're not giving you a lower rate. They're just giving you a nice little discount. As a matter of fact, I had a client once send me a picture of this so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. There it is right there. You can see in this example, so you can only see that there's an adjusted amount there. It's not like they reduce the rate permanently. They just give you a discount for those years. And if you go back to this example, you're getting a 2-1 buy down. And on top of that, you're getting a permanent lower rate of 4.5. A 3-2-1 buy down would be like 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. How does this work and why are they doing it? Well, check this out, right? So let's say if they're selling a house for $400,000. They need this house sold now. Well, first off, there's going to be a limit to how much concessions they can give you. For example, FHA, I think it's up to 6%. Conventional, if it's under 10% down, it's 3%, or 6% if you go above 10%. So there's a limit on it. So they can't just give you a lot of concessions. And what they do basically is they give you closing costs and then they charge you to get that interest rate cheaper. So they give you the money and then they charge it to you so that way they can get that rate cheaper. They are not going to reduce their price, because if they reduce their price to say $380, then they have to start reducing the price for other houses. So they're going to be as creative as possible to not give you that. So instead, what they do is they basically prepay that 2-1 buy down. If you do the math for that example I showed you earlier, it was on average $400 for the first 12 months. So that's about $4,800. For the second year, it was $200, so that is about $2,400. So that was about $7,200 of savings, give or take. Well, check this out. It doesn't matter if you buy a new build or a resell. Someone can pay $7,200 and buy a 2-1 buy down for you. So instead of giving this money off the price, they would rather give you those $7,200 and buy down that 2-1 buy down. Now here's the beautiful part, at least for them, is it doesn't count towards the limited amount of concessions they can give you. So they can max out their concessions and pay for the $7,200 to give you that 2-1 buy down, and basically find another way as a sales tactic to get you to buy their new build. Some other incentives I get thrown out there are, hey, we'll pay a certain amount of closing costs. This may be a fixed amount like $8,000. Sometimes they say a flat percentage of 2%. On average, your closing costs are going to be about $8,000 to $10,000. So keep that in mind. If they're saying they're going to give you, $7,000 or $8,000, it probably won't cover the entire amount. So how do builders figure out which house or which situations get more of these incentives? Well, my friends, there's an easy chart to follow. D stands for desperation. I stands for the amount of incentives you get. The higher the desperation goes, the more incentives you will receive. So for example, if there's a house that's like not really done being built yet, it's still 2 months out, that desperation is going to be pretty low. So if you go to try to lock that house in right now, they might give you some closing costs. They might give you just an adjusted, like maybe we'll give you like a 4.5, or they'll throw something, but not as much. Now, if there's a house that was already going to be sold, but it fell through, it's already fully finished, it's done, but it's still sitting there, that desperation is going to be pretty freaking high. And that's where you're going to find a situation where, like, hey, they're going to probably give you a 2-1 buy down, and they're probably going to give you like a nice lower rate of 4.5. Now, it gets even more desperate. I've once encountered a situation where it was like 2 weeks into the new month. The house had fallen out of escrow, which means for the builder, they had already like started using that money they were going to make from that house to start building other houses. But it fell like the week before closing. And now they're like, we need that money now. We're technically in the negative. As long as they find someone to close in 2-3 weeks, they need that sold now. That's where you're going to find a situation where it's like, hey, they're going to give you a 3-2-1 buy down. They're going to give you a 4%. And on top of that, they'll pay your closing costs and give you a big old smooch because they are desperate to get that place sold. So the more desperation that you find, the more incentives you will get. So if your friend is bragging about, oh man, I got a pretty sweet this, pretty sweet that, you go to that builder the next weekend and they don't have that same situation, it's just the luck of the draw. Whenever I'm working with the client, we do our initial meeting, and then after we're done with our initial meeting, we set a first weekend we're going to go look at houses. And I fully set the expectation we may encounter a situation where it's just like, holy crap, they're going to give an extra discount on this house because of their desperation level, or we may not find that. But if we do find that, I tell people, hey, be ready, because sometimes that freaking deal is just worth it. If you can get a rate below 4, if you can get all these other sweet stuff, it's worth it for sure. But I have, of course, an exception, because what is this life but exceptions? Everyone gets special treatment sometimes, right? I call this the big boy clause. If you're dealing with a big builder, D.R. Hortons, the Lennar, the you know what I'm talking about, the national ones, they have more money to throw around. Their deals aren't going to be too tied to desperation. For example, this could change from the time you watch it from now, but right now, D.R. Horton is consistently giving a 3.99% rate in most cities and most areas. As of right now, that could change once again, right? If I go to other builders that are a bit smaller, it depends on the house. Some houses, they give me a 4.5, sometimes they give me a 5, sometimes they give me a 4. It depends on the situation and the house, right? But for a big boy, they're always just gonna be a little bit more aggressive. Now, you could still go find one that they haven't been able to sell, and what they'll do is they'll add on extra stuff, which is super sweet. Just keep in mind, when you're dealing with big builders, there's more things to be aware of, which we'll talk about later in the video, especially in regards to inspections and quality and stuff like that. So we'll get to that, I promise. And last but not least, they're getting that 4% because they're probably going with FHA. Here's the thing. If you go to a builder, you're going to see that low rate, and it's going to say right next to it for FHA and VA loans. If you want to go conventional, which has its advantages, has its disadvantages, listen, this is for I don't have an updated video for the FHA videos on the Arizona Hobby channel, but I will. And if it's popping up now, it's made. If it hasn't been made yet, just subscribe and stay tuned for it. But there's a lot of disadvantages and advantages to FHA, and some people with better credit scores, or maybe they don't, or maybe just with higher down payments, don't want to be forced to go FHA. Unfortunately, if you want the cheaper rate, you have to go with FHA, you have to go with VA, or even in some cases, you have to go USDA. They can get those rates cheaper because they start lower and because it's just their government products, so they're just cheaper to buy the rate down on. Of course, if you want a breakdown of what the difference is with FHA and conventional, what's the best loan type, you can always schedule a meeting with me and we can go over it in person and kind of go over the whole process. And that's it, guys. How people are getting those low rates is a combination of buying a new build, buying an inventory house, making sure they're okay with FHA, and making sure that they actually shop around different builders. They can get you that rate as low as possible, which, if those that don't know, I mean, getting that rate down to 4, maybe 3.5, or even low 4s will save you up to $500 to $700 a month on your monthly payment because of just pure interest. And on top of that, you're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on your interest overall. Let me show you something real quick. This is a mortgage calculator I made for my clients. You can feel free to get a copy. Just send me a message. And then essentially, if you were buying, let's say, a $380,000 house, we're doing 3.5% down. And right now, if you were to go buy a resale, it's probably going to be an interest rate of about 6.5. We're looking at about a monthly payment of $28.29, but we're looking at paying $475,000 in pure interest after 30 years. Well, if we go get one of those new builds at 3.99, I want you to see what happens to the monthly payment, but also want you to see what happens to the total interest paid. That went down almost $200,000, and that monthly payment went down $500 to $700. So it's not just the savings of monthly payment; it's the amount of interest that gets calculated, gets sharply reduced, and quite strictly speaking, for anybody who is budget conscious, because right now things are just expensive for buying a house here in Arizona, it's a no-brainer. However, there are some caveats. One is you're gonna live far away. They're not in the city. You're gonna probably have a 20 to 40 minute drive into the city. So if you work from there, you have family there, it just doesn't quite work. So for example, my family, I'm from the Maryville area. My wife is there from too. If we live 40 minutes away, it would make things really difficult for us. But if you're somebody who's like, I don't really care, dude, I don't want to be on my own. As long as I have internet, I'm good. Well, good for you. Then in that case, this is a great option for you. The second one is the quality. Listen, if you're buying something new, your brain's probably saying, great, I'm buying something new with warranty. I don't have to ever worry about repairs. You're not going to get a perfect house. As a matter of fact, most builders are not building up to standard right now, which really sucks. So if you're going with the new build, you're going to have to take on another job for 30 days. That is a quality control manager for that builder. So you're going to not only just go under contract, but you're going to have to make sure to hire an inspector. You're going to have to make sure that the superintendent is following through. For example, I had a client of mine who we did all the things I recommended them to do. When it came time to the first walkthrough, there was like a cracked part of a concrete in their driveway, and the builder did not want to fix it. They were just saying, nope, we'll just patch it. We'll just patch it. And we just really had a fight. I went over their head, went to their manager, and finally they let the buyer know actually today that they're just going to patch the whole, they're not just going to patch it, they're going to replace the whole concrete slab. You have to kind of get in that zone, right? That like, let me speak to your manager. Let me da. I really wish builders provided a much better experience, but no, you're going to have to be really on the defensive when you're buying the new build. And last but not least, over this last year, builders customer experience have gone really down. Like it really, like nowadays, once you go under contract, it feels like you're getting put into this machine and just like shoved in there. And it's very informal, very like just rushed. They don't really give a crap about you. They can totally tell that you're just one out of 50 people buying a house in their system. From their title, from their salespeople, maybe their salespeople not quite at first, but you're just shoved into this machine, and it's really cold, really informal. So don't expect, you know, like massages and like I said, smooches earlier. Don't expect that during the process. Once you're under contract, you're very going to be much put into a system and a machine. So expect that at least. But hey, at the end of the day, as long as they give you a sweet rate and a somewhat acceptable house, I think it's going to be worth it. It's not as easy as just going to your local new builds and just knocking the door. As a matter of fact, they have a certain percentage already allotted for a buyer who comes in with their agent. If you show up without your agent, that percentage doesn't go to the salesperson. That percentage doesn't go to you. That percentage just stays with the builder in profit. So if you go without an agent, that additional 1, 2, 3% that they were going to give them just goes into the builder's pocket. All that being said, I have a pretty sweet system for my clients whenever they want to go look at new builds. I make sure to guide people throughout the entire way, not just in the beginning. So if you're interested in hiring me to help you go look at some new builds, or you just want some more information on what I've been able to get my clients to succeed on with new builds, feel free to just reach out to me in the information below. You can go to my website and fill out a quick form. If you don't mind, just let me know what kind of areas you're looking in, what kind of price range and monthly payment you want, so I can really give you a good idea. And of course, if you want to meet, then we can set that up once we're chatting. So thank you guys, appreciate you. Hope this video brought you some clarity. I'll see you soon.